You're listening to Covering the Fields with your host, Joe Ellison.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Covering the Field, the weekly program that analyzes all sports, handicaps them, and makes and reviews predictions. I'm your host, Joe Ellison, and today we're going to talk about pro football, college football, baseball, and a few other assorted sports, and our You Got Hosed segment. We'd like to remind you listeners to email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Please give us your feedback and tell us your You Got Hosed stories. Listen to our fantasy football mock draft special and visit our Covering the Field website. This week, we are broadcasting from the Blue Bowl in beautiful downtown Carson City. The Blue Bowl is promoting a pool, $15 a week, $180 a season, against the spread on the half-point parlay card. Watch the NFL package at the Blue Bowl. It's a Bears bar, but all the games are here at the Blue Bowl. And a special thank you to all the firefighters and first responders battling the Nevada and California wildfires. First off this week, I'd like to introduce our National Football League expert, Charles O'Laughlin. How are you doing today, Charles?
I'm excellent, Joe. How are you doing today?
Terrific. We're finally here. The season starts tomorrow.
Exciting.
As we sit here today, what's foremost on your mind?
Got a few things, Joe. I'm wondering how the Dallas Cowboys are going to come out with Dak Prescott. That offense has a lot of potential. It's going to be super exciting this year. I think they're going to face a tough matchup against the Bucs tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that. Want to see how long it takes for Chicago to put in Justin Fields. I'm not high on Andy Dalton. Haven't been since he's left Cincinnati. And last year, Dallas, he did not look good. So I'm wondering how long that's going to take. Wondering if the Chargers can put something together this year. We both like the Chargers. Excited to see what's going to come out of the NFC East. There's a lot of things going on. Super stoked.
So, Charles, before we get to predictions, I counted 15 out of the 32 teams that have a different opening day quarterback starter this season than last season. That ties the mark of 3 years ago and is one less than the record 16 set in 1999 when Cleveland re-entered the league. I mean, Charles, how crazy is that?
Yeah, quarterback's important. Winning's important in the NFL, and a lot of people, a lot of GMs, a lot of coaches tie that to the quarterback. If you're not winning, you're going to get a new quarterback. You're going to get someone in there who can win. So it's surprising for sure, but it also goes to show you that the kids coming out of college are more ready to play. They think that the kids give them a better shot than some of the vets. So,
well, 30 of the last 32 quarterbacks drafted in the first round started at least one game during their first season. So we should expect all 5 to start at some point. In your opinion, Charles, who's going to shine the brightest?
Ooh, man. I like Mac Jones a lot just because of the coaching out there. I think Belichick is going to give him a shot to win every week. Other than that, Trevor Lawrence is going to be looking nice. He's got a nice little offense out there. When Fields comes in, Fields is going to be electrifying. I'm not high on Lance, to be honest with you. That's going to be my least favorite, but they all have things to watch that all bring different things to the game that's going to be exciting.
So, Charles, it's time we move on to the Week 1 slate of games. But without having seen these teams in any meaningful action, you'd think these games would be tough to predict at this point. Are you betting on any of the sides or totals this week anyway?
Yeah, I'm going to take 2 games on the spread, and then the rest I'm going to tease simply because, like you said, Joe, we haven't seen these guys play. This might be the preseason, for these starters. Also, this bye week before the season shakes things up. Sometimes players come off good on a bye week. Sometimes they come off bad. A lot of players are coming off a bye week not even playing, which is extremely interesting. So, yeah, how about yourself, Joe?
Yeah. Did you? I do have a couple picks. I'm going to give one pick out very soon. Did you have anything specific in mind that you see on the sheet first?
Yeah. I like that Arizona Cardinals and Tennessee game. Cardinals defense is being upgraded, but their corner, they lost Malcolm Butler. They're going to be starting Robert Alford and a third-year corner, Byron Murphy, on the outside. Robert Alford's a little bit slower. He's a stickier physical corner, but when you're playing that with Julio, Julio can work you. So I think that's going to make a safety come over, and it's going to leave the middle of the field open for Derrick Henry. Titans defense cannot stop anything. I don't think they could stop a Pop Warner football team. That's their Achilles heel. So I'm taking the over there. I think the over right now is sitting at 52. Definitely take that over. You know, if Kyler Murray and those Arizona Cardinals come out like they did in the preseason, three and outs, that means, you know, Tennessee could get the ball 4 or 5 times in those three and outs, put up, you know, 10, 14, 17 points. The Cardinals are going to be chasing. So, and they can put up points quick. So I like that over. I'd also throw that over on my teaser card. The other big game I'm high on is the Niners versus the Lions. I think the Lions are going to be bottom of the barrel, top 3 pick this year in the NFL draft. They are bad. That Niners defense is going to get a chance to dig in their heels once they get the jitterbugs out, kind of get settled in after that first quarter, that first half. It's going to be game on. I think they're going to be able to control the ball. And what you got to love about Kyle Shanahan is he can win a game any way he needs to. Whether he needs to throw the ball, he needs to run the ball, win it by defense. They're minus 7.5. I would pound that, and then I would watch it go up. And then if they get up by 20 points, I may go play the other side if I can get the Lions at plus 23, plus 24, and see if I can't hit it both ways.
So that's 2 picks.
Those are my 2 picks. Other than my teasers, you know, I like the Browns a lot, but it is against the Super Bowl winning Chiefs, so I would tease them up. But I would also possibly take them at the 6, you know, depending how they look coming in Saturday. And then I'd also tease up the Dolphins at the Pats. You know, that's going to be a head coaching matchup right there. It's going to be who turns the ball over. It's going to be a game of who makes less mistakes. You know, so I like that matchup too.
Well, I'll give out 1 pick now, and then I'll give out the other pick in the next segment. I'm kind of up against you on the New England game, but I'm not worried about the teaser. I like New England giving up the 3 points at home against Miami. I know it was the preseason. You were talking about Mac Jones. He looked really good enough to push ex-league MVP Cam Newton completely off the team. On his 8 drives in that preseason, the Patriots scored either a touchdown or field goal on every one of them. Without him, and that was with him benefiting from an excellent running game too. So in the offseason, New England spent the most money in the history of free agency. A home loss to Miami. Head coach Bill Belichick would find that to be unacceptable. I'm laying the 3 points. So that was it for our picks for our segment, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
first week out of the chute.
Yeah. You know, you got to see how these teams are coming in. You got to, you know, you really won't start wanting to start spending your bankroll till about week 3, week 4, when you really see how teams are coming together. Other than that, my college football picks this week, I would watch South Carolina at East Carolina. They're only a -2. They usually play each other really tough, but East Carolina is not in South Carolina's ballpark this year. So I'll take that too, and I'll also tease them at a 6 or a 6.5 and get plus points on them by a field goal, you know, because Vegas doesn't think it's going to be more than a field goal game. Other than that, going back to the hometown, I love Florida over South Florida. South Florida got their doors blown off last week, 45-0. Florida came out last week, and I think they won by about 4 or 5 touchdowns. So minus 28.5, yeah, that's a tall order, but them Florida Gators, man, I'd give it to them.
Last week, your picks were pretty decent. You went 2-1 against the spread. You won with Texas Tech and Arkansas. Central Florida won, but didn't cover in a weather-delayed game.
If you got them at the beginning, they covered because it opened at 4.5, but it closed at 5.5.
Yes, that's the number I saw. Yep. And they won by 5. And the weather had a little something to do with that, too.
Yeah, and if you took that teaser that I told you, you won on that teaser, too. So if we're doing all the picks, I'm 75% right now, 3-1.
Fair enough. Quite true. Well, let's hear it, Charles. Give us your Super Bowl prediction and tell us the finish you would like to see happen in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, you know, Super Bowl predictions, it's hard to do this, you know, we're still 20 weeks away from the Super Bowl. A lot of things can happen. So I'll give you a couple teams I'd keep my eyes on. I don't like predictions yet because, like I said, a lot of things could happen. Out of the AFC, I've got the Bills the Browns or the Ravens. You know, I do think Lamar Jackson has to put it together eventually. If he wants to be one of these $100 million quarterbacks, he's got to put it together. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. So I got those three teams coming out of the AFC. NFC, it's a crapshoot. Honestly, if I was to tell you right now what you're asking, I got the Bucs repeating, because not only do I have money on them, I don't see a team that's better than them. But I could see the Bucs. I could see the boys. Man, you know, other than that, in the NFC, maybe the Packers, you know. Those would be the teams, 6 teams, 3 on each division, 3 on each conference that I'd watch out for.
Well, I was a little worried about Baltimore losing their running back, J.K. Dobbins.
Their number one running back is still as healthy as can be, though, in Lamar Jackson. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. Gus Edwards will have to step up and take a lot of the load. They just signed another older
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. They just signed Le'Veon Bell for they're pretty desperate at that position. So, but yes, Cleveland definitely. The Bills I love a lot. I will make and Tampa Bay, and I will definitely make my prediction later on in the show. Well, thank you, Charles, and we'll have you on again next week for some more pro football talk. Next up on the show is our college football handicapper, Big Richard Martin. How's it going today, Richard?
It's going great, Joe. It's good to be here at the Blue Bull, at the 5-Star Dive Bar. It's a great place, great atmosphere. Glad to be here on the show.
Before we get to last week's action and this week's predictions, the headline news comes from the Big 12 Conference. With Oklahoma and Texas leaving for the Southeastern Conference in the near future, the Big 12 announced the pending additions of Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, and Brigham Young, which would actually make the Big 12 12 teams again. Big Richard, is this a good move?
This is a great move. You remember how we talked about this a couple episodes ago, and we knew Big 12 was going to have to do something, or they're going to fall behind and get out of the Big 5 conferences. So they went out and got some great teams. I mean, you get BYU. They're always, relevant in football and basketball. They got Cincinnati. That can go both ways. They're usually an Elite 8 team or, a Final Four team even sometimes. So, I think it makes the Big 12 way more relevant. You got Central Florida. If they had that perfect season and they were in the Big 12, they're definitely going to get an invite to the Final Four. And then we look at Houston. I mean, last year, they were relevant in football and basketball also. So they did a great job picking this up. I say it's a bonanza win.
Yes, Houston made the Final Four even in basketball. So, it's an awesome move. Yes, a couple months ago we predicted 2 teams out of Houston, BYU, and Boise State would be invited. But football-wise, the additions of Cincinnati and Central Florida make a ton of sense. And that's really what this is about, is football.
Absolutely. And it's all about college football.
So, Big Richard, last week, like every week in college football, it seems, there were some big upsets. Did any stand out to you?
Well, we look at Washington, they were in the top 25, and they come out and they lose to Montana Grizzlies, and we'll go over that on our picks of the week. I was huge upset. Did you have a couple upsets you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, well, that one was the biggest one, obviously, Washington being ranked. That was the first time since 2016 that a ranked team failed to beat an FCS school. Certainly East Tennessee State defeated Power 5 conference Vanderbilt. As bad as they are in a Power 5 conference. They beat them 23-3. South Dakota State beat Colorado State 42-23. And it was a pleasure to see Eastern Washington squeak by UNLV in overtime, although Eastern Wash actually went off as a slight favorite. And finally, Holy Cross beat Connecticut 38-28. UConn head coach Randy Edsall just quit right then and there.
He quit on the spot. So you're telling me there's a coaching spot in UConn if we're interested in somebody going out to UConn, and I'm sure they're going to need a lot of bartenders as bad as they're playing football also.
Yes, it's going to be a dismal year for them. The one upset I didn't really enjoy was UC Davis beating Tulsa 1917. I graduated from Sacramento State. Our biggest rival is UC Davis. Not good. That hurts recruiting right there.
UC Davis is not going to be in the top 5 recruiting class this year after that game for sure.
But they'll be doing better than Sacramento State probably now. So, Big Richard, there also were some key injuries in last week's games. Which ones were the biggest?
Well, I know the biggest one that we look in Alabama losing their star linebacker, Christopher Allen. He's out for the year with a foot injury. He's going to have foot surgery. He has a fractured foot. This guy's a top 20 player coming off the draft with Mel Kiper's draft board. I mean, he's probably the most athletic player on the field, and they lose their 5-year senior. But they have people coming in. They have a new guy they've been talking about. He's supposed to be a 5-star recruit. They said if you look at his high school tapes, you're going to be amazed. So let's see if that translates to Alabama. And Alabama's always solid at linebacker positions, and they have to have it. Nick Saban knows that there's going to be injuries in football, and he recruits heavily in the defensive side as they blew out the Miami Hurricanes last week.
Well, there was I was watching the Minnesota-Ohio State game. There was a running back that was looking pretty good.
Absolutely. We talked about him last week, Mohamed Ibrahim. He was a 1,000-yard rusher, the only 1,000-yard rusher in the Big 12 last year. He was going at 8.2 yards a clip every carry, and he looked great at the beginning. He goes out, so his season's over, his Heisman dream's over, and we'll be seeing him on Sundays next year probably.
The Oregon preseason Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, linebacker.
Kayvon Thibodeau. Thibodeau. Yeah, Thibodeau. This is the number one defensive player on Mel Kiper's board. He's just a complete animal on the field. He disrupts pass rushes. In the first quarter, he blew by his block, sacks the quarterback, ball falls out, and it's scoop six the other way. He goes out in the first quarter, but he had a sprained ankle, and it looks like he's day-to-day right now, and it looks like he's going to play against the Ohio State Buckeyes.
And we had a Michigan wide receiver get hurt on a punt return.
Yeah, he's he was their electric player, Ronnie Bell. He's out for the season also.
Wow.
Returning a punt. He had a 76-yard touchdown pass in the first half. Caden McNamara's number one target goes down for the year. But I think that Michigan's going to be just fine. We're going to talk about that later in the segment.
So getting to last week's spread predictions, Big Richard, I know you had the Georgia Bulldogs plus the 3 points against Clemson, but the Tigers threw for the only touchdown of the game. How did that work out for you?
Well, DJ Uiagalelei did throw the only touchdown in the game. Unfortunately, it was to the Georgia Bulldogs. That Georgia defense just manned up. They ate all day on Clemson. It's a tough task for a young quarterback to go in and play Georgia, and their defensive player, Jordan Davis and Christopher Smith, the two defensive players, and they're named the SEC Players of the Week also for that dominating performance.
Yeah, Georgia had 7 sacks and held Clemson to 24 yards rushing. Pretty dominant.
Pretty dominant.
We both had Nevada in one. How did that go there, Big Rich?
It was Carson Strong on his big Heisman Trophy, you could say, ride this year, his first game. He has a strong arm. He had a tough task going down to play in Cal. They went down there and ran 2 touchdowns into the first half. It looked like it was going to be a long day for the Wolfpack, but he came back. He was all throwing the ball all over the field. He looks great. He's probably going to run for mayor here in Carson City. I mean, Carson Strong, I think it would be a great pick. Stay strong, Carson City, Carson Strong.
Yeah, that was a horrible first quarter for Nevada, that 14-0. But then 22 unanswered points and held on to win 22-17. It's going to be a great season for Nevada.
And we look at that, Joe, is we're going to have to look at that next week, not this week's game, but the week after that. They go into Manhattan, Kansas. They're going to play the Kansas State Wildcats. Yeah, and they got Skylar Skywalker Thompson. He's a 6-year player. He's the only guy in college that's probably been under 3 presidents, since he's been in college. He was 9 for 14 with 144 yards last week. He had a rushing touchdown, and when he lowered that shoulder, I think everybody in Kansas held their breath as he had his shoulder injury before. They also have a dynamic running back, Deuce Vaughn. He's like their Kansas State alumni, Darren Sproles. He had 131 yards, and he catches the ball in the backfield too. He's dynamic, and that's going to be a tough game for Nevada.
Yeah, certainly Nevada will be an underdog in that one. I'm looking forward to seeing that spread. First off, we do play Idaho State. We get to rest some players maybe a little bit this week.
Yeah, they got a cupcake game this weekend, and they'll be ready to go against K-State. I'm looking forward to that.
So, Big Richard, what are your college picks for this week?
Okay, well, we got to start the 9 o'clock game. We have the Oregon Ducks going to the Horseshoe. Like you said, Kayvon is that Thababu? Thababu?
Thibodeau.
Thibodeau, yeah. So I mean, he's the guy that everybody's going to be looking to see if he's going to play. If you looked at last week, Ohio State was a 14-point favorite against Minnesota, and that was I did take the Ohio State and I got it at 13.5, so I won by that hook this week. But coming to this week, now they're 14.5 favorites. Now, if you look at Joe, don't you think that Oregon is a better team than Minnesota?
I would think so. Oregon's favored to win the Pac-12.
Right. So they're only 14.5. Now, one thing we learned about week one is home field advantage is out this year. I mean, you look at poor Sam Howell out there when he had to go to Blacksburg, Virginia, and that place was just rocking. If you say Texas A&M has the 12th man, I can tell you right now Virginia Tech has the 13th and 14th man. He couldn't get his thing act together at all. That place was rocking, and it's great to see college football back. But like we were saying, so if Oregon State was favored by 14 or only 14.5, on paper you would think that Oregon would be the pick here. But not so fast, Joe. I mean, if you look at the game, I mean, that C.J. Stroud was awesome last week. He was a freshman. He had, his freshman jitters going on, and he was in the road at Minnesota. So, he just went out there and threw 13 for 22 for 4 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. They also have the 3-headed running backs at Ohio State. You got Master Teague III, and you got Myron Williams, who went for 9 carries for 125 yards, including a 71-yard explosion play. Like we talked about, he's the local kid in Ohio State, out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So, in that, I'm going to say the one thing we know is that Ohio State is going to probably put 40 points on the board just coming out of the bus. They're just dynamic. They're at the shoe. It's got 100,000 people there, and I think that Oregon's not going to be able to compare with the position players of Ohio State. And I think that we take Ohio State, we drop that 14.5, and I really love the 63.5 on the over. I think it's going over for sure. That's a safe bet.
I'm agreeing with you on Ohio State. Ohio State and Oregon have met 9 times. The Buckeyes have won every time. I don't know about the 14 points, but I'm going to give it a shot. And definitely the over. Ohio State's defense looked a little shaky against Minnesota.
Well, I told you I thought they would bend and not break. Well, they broke more than a Brokeback Mountain. They definitely gave up 31 points. So I'm telling you right now, we're going to go with Ohio State, and hopefully that defense plays a lot better this week.
Any other picks?
Well, yeah, let's go to the Michigan game. Like we talked about, this is the big Richard pick of the week. Michigan's dropping 7 points to Washington. Washington looked absolutely horrible. You're telling me the Montana Grizzlies take a top 25 team out? I think Washington's not that. We have Cade McNamara. He was 9 for 11 last week against Western Michigan. He threw for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's just about a Tom Brady type of day. Where's number 12 for Michigan? I thought it was Tom Brady out there. And we got to look no further than also J.J. McCarthy is backup. He came in on garbage time and just looked awesome. He had a pass that I thought it was John Elway. He was rolling to his right, turns around, and throws it across field, which any coach would tell you that's a bad move. But his arm strength is long enough to get it there, and he got a touchdown. They look good. They're going to roll over Michigan.
McNamara, of course, from DeMonte Ranch High School in Reno. I'm rooting for him to keep the job. That would be awesome. But it's nice to have an awesome tandem going,
exactly.
too.
And then you got the team rushed for 346 yards last week. I'm saying that they're going to be rolling, Big Blues rolling, and they're going to give Ohio State everything they can handle this year. In the Big Ten.
No, that pick makes a lot of sense. If Washington can lose by 6 at home to Montana, how are they going to cover 7 on the road?
Looks like a great bet.
It ain't going to make it. Any other pick?
Sure. Okay, so we have the Cy-Hawk Trophy game going on in Iowa. We have the Iowa number 10 Iowa Hawkeyes going against the Iowa State Cyclones. So last week, Iowa's defense just looked strong. Iowa State had problem with, Northern Iowa. They were favored by 30 points and only won by 5. So it's going to be a good defensive battle. I would probably take either team with the points. Iowa's getting 4.5 on the road. Iowa's also won the last 5 meetings against the Cyclones.
Okay. Any other ones?
Sure. Let's go look at Texas. I mean, if we look at the Heisman Trophy, we were talking about Bijan Robinson was the number 1 running back. Well, he sure looked like it against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. He rushed for 100 yards, had a receiving touchdown. I mean, he was obviously the best player on the field. I'm drinking the orange Kool-Aid. I'm thinking today I actually took Bijan Robinson at 18-1 for the Heisman Trophy winner, and I say they go out there and they dominate this week.
Any more?
Well, the last one we're going to have to go. We have the Holy War on Saturday night. We have Utah -7 at BYU. Now, Utah has won the last 9 straight games they played against each other. So we say we take Utah, drop the 7 at BYU. Not so fast, Joe. Let's look at it. All those games were decided by 8 points or less. So take the 7. They're at home at Provo, Utah. Let's go ahead and go with BYU, our new Big 12 team members out here in the Big 12. So let's go BYU.
Wow, that was a nice set of picks there. You didn't mention one that I really like, though. I have to mention Oklahoma State -12.5 against Tulsa. It's kind of like the Montana-Washington concept. If you can't beat UC Davis, you shouldn't be able to hang 12.5 points with the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Looks like a safe bet to me, Joe.
And on a side note, if you're all you Notre Dame fans out there, if you're looking for the Notre Dame-Toledo game this weekend, it's on the Peacock Network. Good luck finding that. I don't have it.
I don't know. Maybe ask your kid. I'm sure he can find it on there. But I know for sure I can't find it.
No, I know I can't find it. So, Big Rich, do you have any point spread picks for week 1 of the NFL?
Oh, yes, I do. I love the Denver Broncos this week going into the Meadowlands out there in New York playing the Giants. The spread went off at 1, -1 from the Broncos. I jumped on that right away. I knew it was going to go up, but it is right now at -3. So take the Denver Broncos. They're coming back this year. They're going to cover that 3-point spread. We got Teddy Bridgewater going. I love the Broncos this week. I love the Broncos this year.
There's only one thing that bothers me about that pick. It's the 20-year anniversary of 9/11 and the games in New York. There could be some emotional advantage there for New York. But
Absolutely.
I'm going to probably stay away from that one.
I also like the Patriots this week. Miami's dealing with the COVID bug, and so they have a couple defensive players out. Patriots at home. Bill Belichick, you can't go against him. I say they cover that 3-point spread.
Well, that was my first pick earlier in the show. So I'm glad you agree with me on that.
Absolutely.
My second pick, I'm going to take New Orleans plus the 4 against the Green Bay Packers in Jacksonville. Now, the Saints have been displaced due to Hurricane Ida. They practice in Dallas, but they can't play at Jerry World, so they end up having to play in Jacksonville. There's a history of team bonding in these kind of situations. Tulane last week from New Orleans played great at Oklahoma. And also the Saints had training camp in much hotter and humid conditions than Green Bay did. So it's an advantage for them playing in Florida. I expect a close game.
Yeah, you remember the last hurricane they had out there. You remember when they opened the Superdome up there, and it was just a great game. And you remember the block kick, and it seemed like the magic was there during that. Maybe the same magic will be in Jacksonville this week.
And finally, Big Richard, what is your Super Bowl pick, and what would you like to see happen in the Super Bowl?
Well, my Super Bowl pick, if I had a pick, and I'm a Denver Bronco guy, but, man, I got to go with Patrick, my homie Holmes, man. I mean, I think Kansas is ready to go this year. I think that getting beat last year, not playing second fiddle to terrific Tom out there in the Buccaneers. I think the Kansas City has a great year. I think that Patrick Mahomes throws 50 touchdowns this year. I think that they're going to be alive, and they got something to prove.
Well, thank you, Big Richard.
Well, I would like to do my long shot pick. Who I'd like to see win.
Yeah. Well, who'd you like to see? I cut you off there a little bit.
Well, I'd like to do a shout out to my Uncle Mike. Now, he lives out there in Michigan, and he's a diehard Detroit Lions fan. So every year he sends $100, and he pits for my cousin Pistol Pete put $50 to win the conference, $50 to win the Super Bowl, and every year the guy laughs at us when we give him the money. So if I had to see somebody I would like to win from my Uncle Mike and see the Lions, would that be great for football?
That would be like a miracle. But anyway, yeah. So thanks again, Big Richard.
Great to be here.
Yep.
And go do a shout out here for the Blue Bull on Sunday. They're going to have the NFL ticket here. So if you want to go to the 5-star dive bar, I'm going to be here. I told them I'm going to bring my Aunt Donna's Denver Bronco biscuits and gravy down here. So we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good little show and watch some food and watch the first week of football.
Yes, they do have the package here, and they also have a tournament, kind of like a pool, $15 a week, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Well, good.
Thank you again, Big Richard.
Great to be here.
And we'll have you again for some more college football picks next week. Now we go off to the Diamonds with our Major League Baseball expert, Ronnie McKinnon. How are things going today, Ronnie?
Joe, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Yes, baseball is in full swing, obviously. Not too much time left as football starts. And today we had the Hall of Fame ceremony. How did that go, or is it still going?
Well, actually, there's only one this year. This is from 2020 because of the pandemic. They were going to have two, but they're not. It's just the one. And I pretty much, the speeches still might be going on, but Derek Jeter got in and on the first try from the Yankees. And also Larry Walker, who was a longtime Colorado Rocky. He played on other teams also. Ted Simmons, a catcher, went in as St. Louis Cardinal. And then there was an executive, Marvin Miller, who actually died back in 2002 and 2012, excuse me. And he was like 95 years old. He was the director of the Major League Baseball Association, Players Association. So he also got elected to the Hall of Fame. So those were the four. One was not a player.
Derek Jeter got in, but somehow, amazingly, he did not go in unanimously.
That's right. I think it was just like one vote. And it's, kind of unusual. The only one that's ever gone in unanimously actually was a Yankee, Mariano Rivera, the great reliever. He went in totally with 100%. But, Jeter just missed it.
Yeah, there had to be some kind of personal hatred there of some sort. How does Derek Jeter not get picked?
Yeah, there could have been somebody that wasn't, crazy about him for some reason.
So last week we had roster expansion among the teams. Ronnie, how did that affect things in the league?
Yeah, every year it's done on September 1st. The teams get to expand from 26 to 28 players. If it's a double hitter, they can go from 27 to 29 players, so they can add 2 players. There's also something called a taxi squad, which means that each team can add 5 other players when they go for road games. So that's what the roster expansion's all about.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that to me. Ronnie, did any players achieve any new milestones since we last talked last week?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Wander Franco for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a rookie, hasn't been there the whole year, obviously, not even half a year. He actually just last night beat a record by Mickey Mantle for getting on base 37 straight games. And this is as 20 years or younger, like Mantle was, so is Wander Franco. And so that's still going into today. He's been on base, and that, however he got on base, whether it's a hit or an error or a walk or whatever, it's getting on base. So that was pretty interesting.
Now, if you hit and do a ground out, I'm going to guess, and a guy gets out at second base, that doesn't count, right?
Right, yeah.
You have to get on base, even with an error.
Getting on base.
Getting on base on your own. Gotcha. Any other milestones we reached?
Yeah, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Hit his 40th, and along with his father, Senior, were one of the only 2 sets of father-son that ever hit over 40 home runs in a year. And the other one was Prince and Cecil Fielder. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, so Ken Griffey Sr. never hit 40 home runs, I guess.
Well, no, in the same year, in the year like Junior did.
Wow. Oh, okay. I would have guessed the Griffeys had done it.
Right. No, these are the only 2.
Oh, wow. And I guess there was one more, something about 100 home runs, the fastest.
Oh, yeah, Pete Alonso for the Mets. Second fastest at 100 home runs.
Second fastest.
Right. The first was Ryan Howard. He used to play for Philadelphia. He was the first fastest in about 20 less at bats. But yeah, 100 home runs. Alonso's the second fastest to get there. And
Well, he's definitely a home run hitter. I'm pretty sure he's won the home run derby the last 2 years in a row.
he did. Yes, he did.
He's good money for the home run derby next year.
Correct.
I'll try to remember that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So is anybody close to any more milestones before the year ends?
Well, I don't think I mean, Albert Pujols hit his 679th home run last night against his old team, St. Louis, who he played for 11 years. And so he's only 19 away from fourth place, which is A-Rod. And there's only 3 players that have hit over 700, which, Barry Bonds and, Henry Aaron
Yes.
and Babe Ruth.
Yes. Well, Pujols is going to play again next year. I know he was on the Angels.
Correct. I sure hope he does. I hope he stays with the Dodgers as a Dodger fan.
He has to play the field, though, in the National League. He can't just be a DH.
That's correct. And he things are great, working out great there with him and the Dodgers. I mean, he's a great guy to have in the clubhouse and on the team. A really good guy, a lot of experience. And now because some of our injuries came back, he's not playing as much. And he's getting platooned against left-handed pitching. He's a right-handed batter. So obviously, I hope he comes back and stays with us and also able to get over the 700 home run mark.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, and he'd be a very expensive pinch hitter otherwise.
Yeah, well,
he's got to be more than that.
They got the money, and they also.
Well, that's true. On the Dodgers, they can do it.
You just can't beat having a guy like that on your team, on the bench, in the clubhouse with his experience. Everybody likes him. He's a really good guy and a great player. He's 41 years old now, and he looks fine when he's out there, and he's still a good first baseman too. So.
Well, that's his position now, first base, for sure.
That's it, yeah.
Ronnie, are there any close battles for leadership in any major statistical categories?
Well, I look at ERA, and I look at home runs, and average, and Cy Young, and MVP, and all that stuff, but those things are still not really decided yet. I think Ohtani is right up there as the AL MVP. I don't think he has too many people chasing him for that. The NL is probably Tatis Jr. for San Diego. You could also talk about Harper from Philadelphia, and even Trey Turner from the Dodgers as possible, but it's still early. Cy Young, I'd say probably Cole and Lance Lynn. Cole for the Yankees, Garrett Cole, and Lance Lynn from the White Sox. Are probably right there. And as far as the National League, it was Buehler. He had a rough outing, but he's still second in baseball in ERA. And guess who's first? Is Scherzer, who is now first in ERA and has a good chance of a Cy Young, another Cy Young. So, and he's also a Dodger this year.
Yeah, he's undefeated with the Dodgers last night.
That's right. Yeah, he's just been phenomenal and lights out every time he's been out there. And, a great guy, a great pickup for us. We needed some pitching with losing Bauer, and Kershaw looks like he's getting close to coming back. So.
Yeah, I can't argue with Ohtani. He's done things that nobody's ever done before. It's going to be hard for him not to win it. Tatis, I'm totally in agreement on your picks. So there are 4 weeks left in the regular season, just about, roughly. How are the races shaping up?
Well, I'd say, Tampa Bay is pretty much got that going now. As of this morning, they're like 9.5 ahead of the Yankees and 10 ahead of Boston. So I'm pretty sure they're going to take that. But it's big for the wild card. The Yankees are still a half a game up with that. Boston's right there. You still have Seattle and Oakland.
Toronto?
3 and 3.5. And Toronto, yeah, of course. Yeah, Toronto is only 2 out.
That's a hell of a battle right there.
That's pretty, yeah, that's crazy. That's 3 teams actually going for a wild card. And, the White Sox pretty much still got the Central. The West is, Houston's moved out a little, 6.5 on Seattle, 7 on Oakland, but that's not over, and the wild card's close. Seattle's 3, Oakland's 3.5. So that division can still happen, and besides the wild card. As we go to the National League, Atlanta started to fall a little bit. The Mets started to win a little more after their losing streak. Philadelphia starting to win. They're like, Philadelphia's 2.5 out of the wild card, 2.5 out of the division, where the Mets are 4 from the wild card and 3.5 from the division lead. So that's going to be pretty interesting as we go with, after today, probably about 22 games to go or so. I think Milwaukee's pretty much got the Central tied up, but Cincinnati and St. Louis are in the wild card. Cincinnati is like tied with San Diego from the West for the wild card right now. St. Louis is only 3.5 out. And of course the Dodgers and Giants battling for that division lead. 1 game separates them. They both won the last 2 nights. The Giants are playing right now in Colorado. The Dodgers play later. So that's going to be real interesting to see what happens.
That's the one everybody's been watching all year long, pretty much.
Right, and it could go like this the rest of the season. Who knows, I mean...
I'm looking forward to that. I'm
were,
expecting it to.
Yeah, if they were tied at the end of the 162 games, they would play a 1-game playoff, which I don't mind that, as I don't like the wild card 1 game.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, at least you earn it on the field there.
Exactly, and if they do a 1-game playoff, if they were tied, the Giants would get home field because we played each other 19 times this year. They won 10, we won 9. So,
wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's looking a little ahead. The odds of that happening right now, maybe slim, but certainly a possibility. You never know.
Yeah, I did want to mention something too about the wild card. Last year, because of COVID, they put extra teams in the playoffs, and so there were 16 teams. This year it goes back to like it's
Yes.
always been with 10, and there's the 3 division winners and 2 wild cards from each league. So
finally, Ronnie, do you have a Super Bowl prediction for this year, and a team you'd like to see win it all?
Well, yeah, I'm a big Seahawk fan and Russell Wilson fan. So, and I think they have a real good shot at it. Yeah, that's who I will be rooting for and who I would bet on. So.
Well, I'd love to see my favorite team, Dallas, win it all. So I'm kind of in the same boat. We got the same colors anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And
we got that little green thing in there, though.
Yeah, obviously we don't have the exact same colors,
and a lot of fan
blue
help.
is my favorite.
A lot of fan help in that state.
Yes. And I've got Russell Wilson on my fantasy football team, so I'd like to see him do well. And I'm rooting for Tennessee to take the AFC. I'm just a big Derrick Henry fan. Just love to watch him play. Ran for 2,000 yards last year.
Great running back.
Dallas to beat Tennessee would be a dream. Ain't gonna happen probably, but hey, what the heck.
Yeah. Well, no, but tomorrow night, the first game, Thursday night game.
Dallas is in Tampa Bay.
It's Tampa Bay in Dallas. So and Tom Brady's still there, and so that'll be interesting.
Is that your prediction for who's going to win it all? Tampa Bay, if you had to make a prediction?
Yeah, I really think that they're going to be really great again. I mean, they, not just Brady. They got a great defense. They got a great team, well coached. Yeah, I think so.
Well, thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate having you on the show. We'll see you again next week. We'll talk some more baseball.
Right on, Joe. Thanks for having me, and have a good afternoon.
My final guest today is all-around sports lover Gator Gates. How are you today, Gator?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Joe.
What I was watching last week that we previewed was the Golf Tour Championship. It ended Sunday. What happened?
Oh, it was great. I loved watching it. Your pick, Joe, Clayton, he won the whole thing.
Patrick Cantlay. Yeah.
Patrick
sounds
Cantlay.
like a personal problem.
Yeah, and Ron, my pick, he came in second.
That would have been a hell of an exacta had we been able to put those two together.
Oh, yeah, it would have been great. I'm just watching it, Joe. I know they were showing the other golfers, but I was just fixated on watching them two go at it. And Kenley did open up the doors a couple of times for Rahm, and Rahm just couldn't take advantage of it. But it was sure fun to watch.
Yeah, Kentley, $15 million, could be Tour Player of the Year, won 4 tournaments this year. Of course, Rahm is number 1 in the world and won a major. Colin Morikawa also won a major. It's going to be a hell of a battle between Kentley and Rahm, I'm thinking. Rahm, started that tournament 4 strokes back.
That's right, yes.
Yes, and only lost by like 1 or 2. Had they started on an even playing field, Rahm would have been the champion, but that's not the way they do the Tour Championship.
No.
One interesting note about Patrick Kentley, he was out for 3 years with a back injury.
I didn't know
And
that.
came back. So it's a great story. He's only 29 years old. Patty Ice, we want to call him now. Now the next big golf thing going on is the Ryder Cup, September 24th, 26th. We'll get a little more in depth in a couple of weeks on that. But you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hope they do a lot better than the women did this week. But USA is at a minus 188. I think that's a really good price. Europe is at a plus 200, and a tie is at 1100. I wouldn't recommend going for the tie. Usually, I think somebody's going to win.
Very rare that
Yeah.
there's a tie. It has happened before. I always take Europe. I'm going to like the plus whatever I get.
Plus 2.
And Europe has this camaraderie about them where the USA are generally just individual players. We already have a little hatred on the team with Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. I'm going to say take Europe, get whatever odds you can now. Check it out later. You might even get even better odds down the road.
I think you will. If you're going to take Europe, I think you will. I think a lot of people are going to jump on USA because it's on USA soil.
Everybody always picks USA and they lose. That's
with
the
your
Ryder.
heart and not your head.
That's the Ryder Cup.
Oh, Joe, by the way, I was talking to one of our listeners. His name's Jeff Hannon, and he had a question from Gardnerville. He had a question for you. He wanted to know if you knew why there was 18 holes in golf.
18 sounds like a rather odd number. I'm going to assume it was probably like 20 and something happened and they just made it 18.
That's a very good guess.
Yeah?
A very good guess. They shortened. It used to be 20, but then they took 2 holes and they shortened it down. Now I was trying to find out if there was 22 holes, and there was 22 holes when they started, and then they shortened it down to 20 holes, and then they took the 20 holes and shortened or made 2 of them longer so that they'd be only 18 holes. But my question is that I couldn't find this anywhere. I was wondering if they were like 2 par 3s that they built together and to make them par 5s, or was there even par 5s back in those days? I couldn't find that at all.
Well, you'd have to go back in the history books, the Wayback Machine. All the rules are royal, ancient rules. You're going to have to go back to Scotland. It's a game that started in like the 1400s. I don't know when they decided to make it 18 holes, maybe the 1700s or so.
Yes.
We'll have to look into that. So moving on to some hockey, the hockey season's starting October 12th, but they actually, that's not what we're going to talk about today. The Olympics. They're actually going to take a break this time around. 4 years ago, they did not take a break for the Winter Olympics, the hockey players, and it was a disappointing show. So what have they decided to do now?
Well, I found they announced the hockey coaches. Mike Sullivan from the Pittsburgh, he's going to be USA's coach, and John Cooper from Tampa Bay, he's going to be Canada's coach. And then I thought you might like this one, Joe, that Bruce Cassidy, the Boston coach, is going to be the assistant for Canada. And Barry Trotz, who I think is very deserving, is also going to be an assistant coach for the New York Islanders. I'm really glad that they're going to have hockey in the Olympics. I know that the quarantine and being in China is going to be really hard on these guys, I'm assuming. I could just imagine what they have to go through. But as a hockey fan, how can you not love that action?
Yeah, I love those, my 2 favorite coaches, Cassidy and Trotz, coaching in the Olympics. I hate the fact that they're coaching Canada. I mean, you're rooting for the United States, of course. But yes, no, it's great for hockey to have the Olympics, and as long as there's no COVID problems, it's actually going to happen. And not that anybody wants to go to China. Don't protest. You might not ever come back from China.
Oh, and also, Joe, your Bruins right now are at 3-1 to win the division and 15-1 to win the Stanley Cup.
I had noticed that. I took the Bruins and Islanders already at 15-1. I got the Stars at 40-1. They are now 28-1. So I jumped on them at the right time. The Stars had a rough go at it last year with the COVID situation. At the end of the season, they had to play like 18 games. In the last 31 days, they were like zombies out there on the ice and just fizzled out at the end. Assuming they can stay away from any injuries or COVID issues, they should be back to normal.
It's going to be hard for the first week, I think, Joe. You taking the stats from last year and trying to see what's going to happen this year. I'm thinking you could pretty much throw those stats away from last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a bizarre season with all the divisions all different and everything.
Yeah.
That was crazy. So there is this tournament. Maybe you can teach me something. The UEFA soccer tournament. We have a lot of soccer fans around here, a lot of kids who play. I don't know anything about this UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, it's a UEFA Champions League, and what they do, Joe, is they take teams from all of the countries, France, Germany, England, top teams, and they make one league out of those teams. For instance, they'll take the top 4 teams in England, they'll take the top 3 teams in Italy, and so forth. And that's going to start on Tuesday, Joe. And what I like about the very first, they call it the group stages. You can parlay those. Like in tennis, I have a bunch of customers that parlay the first round of those tennis matches. Not big minuses, but the ones that they think are going to win. I don't always think that going big minuses is the way to go. You can lose. But, yeah, the same thing here with these groups. Now, they have 8 different groups, which would be like your divisions. And every year, every one of these, they always have what's called a group of death. 2 teams are going to make it through to the round of 16. And what the group of death is the teams, there should be 2 teams, when you're handicapping them, that should move on. But in Group B, all 4 teams are very good and can move on. So they call that the group of death because only 2 can move on.
Yeah, well, I did notice World Cup qualifying going on. The United States just getting a draw with Canada at home. I thought that was disappointing. The draw at El Salvador seemed to make sense just because the field was all chopped up and it didn't seem like anybody could score.
The big thing about the draw is that you only get 1 point for a draw and you get 3 points for a win. So yes, it's very disappointing. USA did not make the World Cup last year. We're not making the Olympics. I really think that USA needs to get into the World Cup somehow.
Yeah, that was super disappointing, not making the World Cup last time.
Now, I did see a lot of the scores from yesterday. World Cup was yesterday, and they've only gone through 20% of the qualifying. But all the favorites won again. You know, I didn't see any huge upsets. Another reason that I was saying to parlay those real early. Once you start getting into the later rounds, out of the group stages is when it gets harder to pick those teams.
Well, I've bet some soccer in the past, and there's 2-way and 3-way betting. I'm a total 2-way believer. I can't tell anybody to predict a tie. Just pick a team and go with it. Sitting there trying to predict a tie seems pretty difficult to me. What do you think?
Well, none of ours that I've seen are at less than a plus 200 on a tie. And like this Group B, anytime that they're playing each other, the Group B has Atletico Madrid, FC Porto, Liverpool, and AC Milan. And I believe there's going to be a ton of ties in those.
Okay. Well, if you were to bet the U.S. to tie, you'd be 2 for 2 right now.
Yeah, that's sad, though.
Yeah,
we need wins. USA needs wins if we're going to go anywhere. We're sitting 5th right now, Joe.
That's not good enough.
Not good enough.
We got to finish at least third to automatically qualify. I believe if we finish 4th, we get to play a team from another
I think it's
area.
Oceania, but don't quote me on that. I do think it's Oceania.
We'll play another 4th place team and still get a chance to get in. So hopefully that
It
happens.
shouldn't even come down to that. It should come down to Mexico and U.S. all the time.
For
First
sure.
and second.
For sure. Well, do you have a Super Bowl prediction to join the rest of the crowd
Super
here?
Bowl prediction.
Well, you know, what
It
you
would-
want to happen, what you think's going to happen.
Well, how can you not pick Brady?
That seems to be the consensus.
I don't want to pick Brady. I would love to see somebody else come up, but as of this day, Wednesday, right before the start of the season, at 5-1, it's sure hard not to take that.
Yeah, I'm with the consensus on that. I'm picking the Buccaneers. The defending champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, return all 22 of their starters from last year. That's the first time that's happened in the Super Bowl era. Tom Brady's still playing. That's a big factor. And he should be healthier after off-season knee surgery. Apparently he was
I
injured.
would like to see some team that nobody's picking, nobody's even thinking of, and the one that comes to me right off the bat would be Minnesota Vikings.
No one's picking Dallas either, unless you're a Dallas
Ooh,
fan.
that one's a little harder to swallow, Joe.
Yeah, I know you don't want to see that. Yeah. Oh, I should mention Tampa Bay also has the number one run defense in the league. A big difference in why they win.
Yeah, it's hard to put money somewhere else besides Tampa, I could tell you.
Yeah, some people are rooting for Chicago, especially here at the Blue Bull, which is a Bears bar. And I've got Buffalo to win the AFC. I've got the Buccaneers to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think they take a step up, and the Chiefs take a small step back.
I like Buffalo, too. Another team that I would like to see be there.
Lastly, I have to mention our great country's biggest tennis tournament, the U.S. Open. My pick, Novak Djokovic, is attempting to complete the calendar year Grand Slam, which hasn't been done since 1969, and he is trying to pass Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal with his 21st major. Let's hope he gets it. On the women's side, Canadian Leila Fernandez upset my pick of Naomi Osaka, who is now going to take a mental break from the game. Good luck to her. But now, Fernandez is my new choice. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time for the moments we've all been waiting for. The stories that make us furious about bets that appeared surely to be winners, but in the end something went horribly wrong and they ended up being losers. It's the segment we affectionately call You Got Hosed.
You got hosed.
So, Charles, do you have a You Got Hosed story this week?
I do, Joe, and unfortunately it goes back home to Florida. UCF last week only won by 5 against Boise. You know, I thought Boise was going to have a tougher time playing in Florida, especially with that rain delay, but sometimes that rain delay won't favor the home team. You know, I've always tended to see that. It doesn't favor the home team, so, you know, Boise was able to keep it tight, play a good game. They were only able to win by 5. That's UCF, and I got them at 5.5. Opening line was 4.5. I got them on my teaser, but my straight bet at 5.5 was a loss by that hook. Damn you, Vegas.
It's going to happen a lot. You might as well get used to it early in the season.
Yes, sir. That's why when I do teasers, I buy that half point. I'll take 6.5 point teasers, so I don't have a hook. And if I do get that hook, because Vegas is sitting on an even line, hopefully it plays into my favor.
So, Big Richard, do you have a You Got Hosed story this week?
Well, I do have kind of a you got hosed. I got hosed and I got blessed at the same time. So I'll go through the hosed part first. As you know, the Richard pick last week, I took Notre Dame minus the 7.5 at Florida State. And like you said, college football's back and everybody's home field advantage is out there this year. And you have to look at that when you're handicapping these games. Mackenzie Milton came in the fourth quarter to take over for the quarterback that threw 3 interceptions. I'm thinking I already got the game won. I had an 18-point lead going in. I'm dropping the 7.5. I'm really doing good. And all of a sudden, this kid is the kid from UCF that broke his leg and had like a Joe Theismann break on it. The surgeon who was at the game said that he thought the guy would never even walk without pain again. And now he's playing at the collegiate level. He's going out there taking the Florida State for a great comeback. I mean, the surgeon was crying, the mom was crying, the dad was crying. I was crying, but I was crying because I was losing. But it was still great to see the kid come back out there. And actually, I got blessed to see that. He had a great comeback story. So I got hosed, but I also got blessed at the same time.
Yeah, I can feel your pain on that one. I also had Notre Dame Monday night, or it was Sunday night, and yes, 38-20 up. Next thing you know, they're in overtime, and they don't cover. It sure looked like you had it, but you didn't.
I know.
So, Gator, do you have a You Got Hosed story this week?
Well, mine is actually from 2 weeks ago. It's a Formula One story. Last week, Formula One was in the Netherlands, and Max Verstappen from Red Bull won. But the week before that, they were in Belgium at a track called the Spa Circuit. And it was raining there. And normally in Formula One, it's not a problem with the rain. They have rain tires, and it pushes the water away, and you can still run. But when the start of the race, they delayed the race 3 different times to see if they could get the rain to go past. On the third time, they got the safety car out, and they did 3 laps under the safety car. And once they did the third lap, they called it a race. They said it was finished. Now, in betting purposes, whatever the race is called, that's the way it was. So in this instance, the qualifying is the way that the race ended. Now, I think that the bettors got hosed, whoever didn't bet Max Verstappen, but if you took Lewis Hamilton, I think you got hosed. He started third in qualifying, but he very easily could have been up there to win. And he lost because of them not racing. Verstappen gained 5 points just on that race. And as they are right now, Verstappen's sitting with 224 points, and Hamilton, Mercedes, is sitting with 221 points, which is 3 points different. So I think that the bettors who didn't bet Verstappen got hosed, and I think that Hamilton got hosed a little bit, because there's 3 points difference right now when just that one race was 5 points.
No, they got hosed, but that's a great battle for the championship they got going, with only 3 points of difference.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Joe, do you have a You Got Hosed story?
Yeah, I got hosed in my fantasy football draft I did last Monday. Last year I won the 5th place game, meaning I earned the right to pick 5th, but my stupid commissioner screwed up and put me in the 6th slot. The player I was targeting all freaking time, every draft league I'm in, is running back Derrick Henry, who rushed for over 2,000 yards last year. Sure enough, Henry is available when the 5th pick comes around, and the guy I beat fair and square last year picks him. I'm not at all happy about that right now because I got hosed.
Yeah, you sure did, Joe. You got hosed.
You got hosed.
So that's it for this week. I'd like to thank my guests Charles O'Laughlin, Big Richard Martin, Ronnie McKinnon, and Gator Gates, our producer, our engineer, our editor, and everyone for listening. We'd like you to listen to our Fantasy Football Mock Draft Special and visit our Covering the Field website. We'd like to remind you listeners to email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Give us your feedback, your You Got Hosed moments, and any other comments you'd like to give us. We'd like to thank the Blue Bowl in beautiful downtown Carson City and remind everyone that the Blue Bowl is promoting a pool, $15 a week, $180 a season, against the spread on the half-point parlay card. You can watch the NFL package at the Blue Bowl. Yes, it's a Bears bar, but all the games are here at the Blue Bowl. And a special thank you to all the firefighters and first responders battling the Nevada and California wildfires. Hopefully you all enjoyed the show, and you'll hear us again next week on another episode of Covering the Field.
You've been listening to Covering the Field, a CM World Services and Lesage production.